Hello, YouTubers and various spam bots of the internet. I am Bard of the 90s, and we are playing Depression Quest. And this seems like a little bit of a strange game. It's another game I got on Steam, and as somebody who's actually, lived through depression and deals with it, I thought it would be interesting. So, okay. Also, I found out that the woman who made this, Zoe Quinn, was involved with some sort of scandal, and I don't even... If you want to know my opinion on that, you can read the description, and that's all I have to say about that. So this is an interactive non-fiction about living with depression. Its emotional character is probably mostly indescribable, except as a sort of double mind in which any/all of the alternatives we associate with human agency, sitting or standing, doing or resting, speaking or keeping silent, living or dying, are not just unpleasant, but literally horrible. David Foster Wallace. Depression Quest is a game that deals with living with depression in a very literal way. This game is not meant to be fun or lighthearted experience. If you're currently suffering from the illness and are easily triggered, please be aware that this game uses stark depictions of people in very dark places. If you're suicidal, please stop playing this game and visit the suicide prevention hotline to talk to someone. This is a little loud. The goal of this game is twofold. Firstly, we want to illustrate as clearly as possible what depression is like, so that it may be better understood by people without depression. Hopefully this can be something to spread awareness and fight against the social stigma and misunderstanding that depression sufferers face. Secondly, our hope is that in presenting as real a simulation of depression as possible, other sufferers will come to know that they aren't alone, and hopefully derive some measure of comfort from that. It goes without saying that because of the very nature of depression, it is experienced differently by every person who suffers from it. We aren't trying to say that this is the best or most accurate representation, merely that this is an amalgamation of the experience of the developers and several people close to them. Many of the following encounters deal with issues such as therapy, medication, handling a love life, and reaching out to support networks. In reality, less than half of depression sufferers actually seek treatment, for reasons such as lack of money, perceived personal failing, or public stigma. These things were included in order to touch upon as broad a range as possible, since all these elements can be very important to sufferers of depression, though they will likely not be the experiences of most sufferers. It's important to recognize that not everyone with depression is so lucky. Many people with illness don't have a lot of luxuries that we have in this game. We've written it in this way so that we can focus specifically on the illness, which becomes more and more difficult to deal with as the person who has it is less and less well off. This game uses audio as part of the play experience. We encourage you to play with your sound on. Thank you for playing. Man, that was a lot. Okay. Scroll page. Next option. Previous option. Confirm. Rewind. Passage. Oh, okay, so this is like a reading game. Yeah, I don't have a controller. Well, I do, but I don't know how to connect it. Shift to backspace advanced passage. I hope I can just play this with a mouse. You may use a pointing device. Okay. So... Oh, there. I was like, how do I go back? Yeah, the Bandicam didn't recognize this as a game, so I had to... Okay. How do I start? How do I start? How do I start? Oh. It is early on a Monday morning. You're a mid-20s human being. You have a significant other named Alex, who you are rather fond of, that you've been seeing exclusively for the past few months. The rest of your social circle, why is it highlighted, consists of a variety of friends and acquaintances, some of whom you met at your day job, which is a little boring, but pays the rent. You'd like to be doing more with your life, as would your parents, but you're still in the process of figuring out what it means and how to go about it. You're also dealing with motivation issues that sometimes makes dealing with these things difficult. You feel like this is probably your fault, and on bad days can feel inwardly angry and down on yourself for being lazy, but you're not quite sure how you can break out of it, or how other people deal with these feelings, and seem so very functional. So you spend a lot of nights fixating on thinking about this, but never seem to do anything about it other than lose sleep. I know that feel. It is... oh, okay. It's an unreasonably warm Wednesday evening. You spent the past several hours at work. The past week or so you've found your job motivation flagging more so than usual. You've been in a fog practically all day, simply going through the motions without realizing even what you're doing half the time. And yet time seems to be moving at half speed. You're so checked out that when your boss approaches you to tell you that it's dead and you can go home early, it barely registers. As you walk home, the streets hiss from the recent rainfall. You know that your significant other will be in classes until late, another couple hours at least. You briefly consider using the serendipitous solitude to catch up on that project that you've been working on haphazardly for the past few months. As soon as you think about the work that awaits you at home, you feel the panic creeping in from the back of your brain unbidden. All you can think about is how incredibly far behind you are, and the amount of work seems nothing less than insurmountable. By the time you arrive home and change out of your uncomfortable work clothes, the stress is weighing down on you like a heavy wool blanket. Your computer seems to be staring you down from your desk. You want to sit down and work, but the mere thought of trying to work sends your stress levels flying. More than anything, you feel suddenly and absolutely exhausted and feel a strong desire to simply hide in bed. Do you? No. But I like that first choice. You're depressed, interaction is exhausting, and you're becoming more and more withdrawn. You're not currently seeing a therapist, you're not currently taking medication for your depression. Yeah, that's kind of how I live. You make a stop at your fridge, turn your favorite playlist on, sit down, and start working. You open the last file you're working on, and as soon as your hands touch the keyboard, your mind goes blank. All the motivation and ideas you had when you arrived home vanish in a flash. Your brain seizes up, and you find yourself physically incapable of any sort of productive thought. You take a break to loosen up, popping into your email inbox, Twitter, and various other internet-based distraction fodder. Frustratingly, this pattern continues throughout the course of the evening. As soon as you try to focus on work, your brain diverts all its energy away from the task at hand. While you keep flipping back to your work, you find the sheer mental effort involved in keeping your brain focused is overwhelming and tiring. A few Twitter arguments, YouTube videos, and sparse amounts of actual work later, your playlist flips back to track 1 and the ice in your glass was all but melted, diluting the last dregs of the coke you were nursing. You look back at the clock and realize that a few hours have passed since you sat down to work and you've made negligible progress. I can just wake up early tomorrow and catch up, you think to yourself as you climb into bed, even though you know that never actually happens. Yep, this sounds pretty relatable to me. You're very depressed. You spend a large amount of time sleeping, hating yourself, and having very little energy or motivation. It's a mild Friday afternoon. Alex calls you from one of her classes. Oh, it's a she. Telling you that there's going to be a really awesome birthday party tonight at her apartment that one of her roommates is throwing. You've hung out with this roommate a few times with Alex and you get along well enough, but you aren't particularly close. You don't have work this morning and have nothing else in particular to do tonight. You're feeling kind of run down, but you have been fatigued most of the time lately. You mention that you're feeling ill because you're not sure how else to explain those feelings to someone else, and say that you aren't sure that you can make it tonight. There's a sound of silence over your phone, but you can swear you can hear the sound of your partner's face fall. She tries to convince you anyway. You haven't seen her this week, and she sounds pretty insistent that you come over. She even drops a few suggestively worded hints that you can stay over with them tonight after the party. What do you do? Oh god. Okay, I see what it's doing. It's crossing off the things that, you know, somebody who would want to get better would do, because you don't have motivation. Huh. I'm still going to try to overcome this, so I'm going to choose option 2, but I'm going to have to do that in the next episode. So until next time, bye-bye!